Alright, so on to the next few chapters. Just to recap, we meet Cassandra. She's a psychic. And we find out that the Torel Dagon, the terrorist bad guy, the ultimate baddie, is real. Alright, so chapter 17. Wait a second, I demanded. Are you telling me the Torel Dagon is real? Cassandra nodded, clearly puzzled at my question. Apparently she'd never heard of the Sons of Paradise or their mythical goddess. Just as obviously, we at the Central Intelligence Agency were going to have to update our intel on Assan's sect. This is important, Cassandra. I leaned forward, trying to see beyond the depths of her dark eyes, into those invisible planes only she could access. Could this Torel Dagon be unbound somehow, brought back into the world? Looking at the door, as if she'd badly like to make a run for it, she licked her lips and nodded. Are you... She cleared her throat and tried again. These writings are my stories. They have led you to some new understanding? For a few oh-shit seconds, my mind tried to go somewhere, anywhere else, as a powerful fist of foreboding sucker punched me in the gut. I noticed the light dusting and freckles bridging Cole's nose. Cassandra's lipstick was the same color as the dress I'd worn to Hassan's party, and I chipped a nail. Suck it up, girl. This ain't going away. Yes, I told Cassandra. This puzzle is becoming clearer. The raptor must have allied with the Sons of Paradise because he needed their goddess, their Torel Dagon. Cassandra had described her as a plague beast, and their virus sounded that scary. As far as motive went, the raptor couldn't get enough power if you hooked him directly to a generator. The Sons of Paradise, led by their new hero Hassan, would love the idea of wiping out Americans with some horrifying disease. Aiden would crow like a proud papa as his killer germ laid the land low. I wasn't sure where the senator fit in, but it probably involved multiple cameras and a toothy grin. The how and where of their plan escaped me, but that didn't really matter at the moment, because I knew the when. Tomorrow night was the ritual. They should all be there. Vale and I just needed to go back to plan A. Grab Hassan, make him talk. Take him and his cronies out. Maybe we could do it in one sweeping gesture. Can anybody say boom? Before I could ask Cassandra if she thought Curion could be defeated by a well-timed explosion, Bergman slunk into the room. What? He asked, immediately suspicious as I stared at him, so enmeshed in this new knowledge and how best to deal with it that I wasn't quite able to muster a common pleasantry. Nothing much, I finally managed. Just gaining a little enlightenment. Talk about understatement. That was like saying Vesuvius's eruption was a slight blip in Pompeii's weather pattern. Bergman looked around the room furtively. If you didn't know him, you'd suspect he'd just robbed a liquor store. He carried that air of guilt with him wherever he went. I'll follow you in later, I said. We found out we needed to know, so now that you're here, we'll get out of Cassandra's hair. I stood up, digging in a pocket for a 20. No, please, said Cassandra. There's no charge. My boss blesses you, I said. I leaned across the table and held out my hand, my military brat politeness training temporarily overcoming common sense. Thanks for your help. You've been a godsend. Vale and I will be in touch. She took my hand, barely squeezing in response to my firm grip. Then her focus shifted, and I knew I was screwed. I tried to pull my hand back before she could connect with spirits I wasn't ready to face, but her vision had nothing to do with the worlds beyond death. David is in danger, she said tightly. You must tell him to stay away from the house with the pink door. It's rigged to blow. She dropped my hand and sat back in her chair, looking like somebody just debarked from an intense roller coaster ride. She remembered something that sounded like, Who are you? But I could barely hear her beyond the roaring in my ears. It was as if the explosion had already happened inside my head. The blackness stormed over me like the level 5 twister, a miles-wide black-on-black runaway train I could never hope to stop. But I tried. For David's sake, I fought to stand, to simply stay upright and functional, while my own wild-eyed psyche tried to bowl me over. This time it worked. The force had, for so long, squashed my awareness and pushed it down into unconsciousness, now tugged at me, pulled me forward so fast I felt dizzy with the rush. I felt supercharged, as if I could see everywhere all at once, be anywhere I wanted to go, do whatever I wished. The way I figured it, this was no time to kick Tinkerbell in the teeth. I wished to be with David, wished hard like we were kids and Tammy Soapstone had me down in the dirt, demanding that I call myself and my snake-eating son of a bitch dad a dirty, rotten coward. Wow, fucked up lady. There was a moment in the blackness seemed to offer up a navigational beacon, my own personal yellow brick road on which to set a new land speed record. Later I would gain the knowledge I needed to slow the trip down, put it into some sort of perspective. But now it seemed instant, a jello pudding trek that put me where I needed to be, in the middle of desert nowhere, in the dark, in the heat, slamming into my brother, through him, screaming, David, 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 in a voice so loud and shrill I expected some unseen enemy to lob a grenade in my way just to shut me up. So is she having an out-of-body experience? David stood still, a sheet of sweat covering his artificially darkened face. Night vision goggles covered his eyes, but I knew what they looked like. I faced their twins every day in the mirror. He carried an M4 in one hand and a radio in the other. He looked so fit, so healthy. I just stood there for a second and watched him breathe. What a weirdo. Jazz, he whispered. You can see me? Immediately he shook his head. I could almost read his thoughts. Nope, can't see a thing because it was not covered in Special Forces Booklet 14A. But he reached out his hand, poked it through my stomach and at my back. The same hand went immediately to his forehead and banged on it hard. What a hell of a time to start hallucinating. He turned his back on me, and over his shoulder I saw the house, a squat little square with dark, dark windows and a pale pink door. His team surrounded it, crouched in the shadows like latter-day ninjas awaiting his orders. So this is happening currently. This is not a flashback. She out-of-body transported herself to her brother somewhere. David! I jumped in front of him, holding up my hands, failing to stop his slow advance. The door, the pink door, it's booby trap. Quit freaking out, D. That's what he called himself during his damn I'm stressed pep talks. It's all been scouted, it's all good. The hand with the radio moved toward his lips. God damn it, I didn't come all the way this way to blow smoke up your ass, Daz. Don't go through that door. He looked straight at me. You haven't called me Daz since West Virginia, not even in my dreams. This is so fucking inane. It was my pet name for him, the one I'd used to remind him he was part of me despite his hip friends, his athletic prowess, his ability to make even little old librarians laugh. You haven't called me at all, I whispered. He murmured orders into the radio and waited. Neither of us spoke. I didn't want to spook him further. He didn't want to understand how I was, and wasn't there. I heard frantic whispering. You were right, Jess. The door is wired like a bale of hay. Like a bale of hay? The door was wired like a bale of hay? Since I'm not a country girl... No, I'm not even going to analyze that. Good, I'm glad you listened. Thanks. Thank you. He shucked his goggles and looked at me then, making sure I saw that he meant it for himself. But he meant it even more for his team, 7 men and 2 women who kicked terrorist ass all over the globe without most people even knowing they existed. He grimaced. It's not easy keeping them all alive. I know that now. It was the closest he'd ever come to apologizing about the rift he'd opened between us. I just nodded. I have to go, and I stood in the eye of the storm as long as I could. It was pulling me back now, blowing me home. David held on to me with his eyes, which had suddenly filled with alarm. How did you do this, Jazzy? You're not dead, are you? Because you look awful damn ghostly standing here. No, I laughed uneasily. Of course not, I'm just weird. Relief cleared David's expression. Okay then, I'll call you soon, I promise. I'm sorry, if my ghostly sibling just fucking appeared out of nowhere, I would call them immediately, like, what the fuck? Or check myself into a mental institution. Just saying. I let the storm whip me away from my twin and his crew. Back to the gypsy den I flew, dropping into myself at a jarring rate of speed. I gasped and looked around. Lucky me, somehow, I'd made it onto one of the couches. Cole, Bergman, and Cassandra hovered over me like emergency room nurses. Wow, what just happened, I asked. I mean, what did I say? Not much, Cole told me. You just went white and started to sway. So we sat you down here. You said David a few times. Is that your brother? I supplied. My twin. Cole looked impressed. A twin? Wow. I'd have bet money they broke the mold after you. Thanks, I think. Cassandra was wringing her hands, looking more and more agitated. But now, surely, there's someone you can call? Someone who can stop David before... Yes, of course, I said, inserting worry into my voice. No sense in sharing the story of my latest adventure right now. Maybe later, when I could figure out a way to keep it from sounding like a bad episode of Star Trek. I dug my phone out of my pocket. Is there a place I can talk privately? I asked. Cassandra nodded, ushering the men out of the room and gently closing the door. I dialed a number without even thinking about it. It was probably even more surprised than Albert when he answered the phone to find me on the other end. Dad? Jasmine, what's wrong? Nothing, now. There was something, but it's okay. I stopped, had to. Tears had thrown a hitch in my voice, and the next step was crying on the phone to Daddy. No way. Maybe Albert sensed that because the next thing he said was, "The nurse came. Damnedest thing, Jazz. She's a he. I mean, Shelby's a fella. He was a medic in the army. Can you believe it? Plays a mean game of poker, too." Really? That's great. I put so much bright and perky into my tone, a cheerleader would have gagged. Albert took a second to Albert took a second to wipe the crap out of his ear. Then he said, "Jasmine, hang up. I'm calling you back on the other phone." Okay, I disconnected. I sat on the couch and waited, and when the phone rang, I punched the button and said, "Dad, you don't have another phone." "Yes, I do." He sounded more serious, more like the dad I'd grown up admiring and fearing than he had in years. "It's safe to talk. I've scrambled the line." "Did you just eat a big piece of chocolate cake? Because you said scrambled line, when I'm pretty sure you meant to say scrambled eggs." This girl could be so fucking dense sometimes. "I'll make this quick, because Shelby's in the kitchen whipping up a meal he says I'll actually eat, and I don't want him getting curious. I have a scrambled line because when I retired from the service, I did some freelance work for the CIA. Of course he did. I still consult for them from time to time, which is why I still have the phone. But you retired because of the diabetes. Why would... Didn't have it then, said Albert. What I did have was some expertise in military intelligence the CIA thought they could use. The diabetes, well, that turned out to be a case of life imitating lies. He paused, giving it time to sink in. Then he went on. I know what you could do for a living, Jazz, half from the start. So when you call sounding like you just dodged a cannonball, I'm naturally going to want to help out. So, first of all, are you really okay? I thought about it. No, I'm not in any danger. After another second, I added, at the moment. Is there anything I can do? When I didn't answer right away, he said, Damn it, Jasmine, don't make me beg. I'm so freaking tired of being a useless old man. I'm ready to volunteer. Yeah, I said it. Volunteer. Like some God-fearing, church-going, one-foot-in-the-grave bastard who thinks he can save his shriveled old soul by doing 5 hours of good works a week. Okay, then. Only my father could have that kind of perspective on volunteerism. Twisted old poop. And yet, since we still didn't know the identity of our leak, I really could use somebody with his contacts, and I sounded like he could use the exercise, so to speak. Feeling like I was taking a gondola ride through surreal land, I said, Actually, Albert, there is something you can do. Can you check out some senators and one petite secretary for me? I'll do chapter 18 tomorrow. Because that was stupid.